Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. It's great to have you on, as this week we're dedicating our entire show to the Toronto Raptors, We the North, as we discuss their expectations, where they're going to stack up in the East, and do they have a chance of contending for a championship. We're joined by Mark Griffin from the Hoops Lounge, who's going to be giving us our insight. And as always, we invite you to join us on our social networks at facebook.com/RBTL Sports, as well as on Twitter at RBTL Sports. You also don't want to miss as I face off against boxing legend Otis Grant. It's happening right here, right now. It's time to read between the lines.
Tonight, I think I'll kind of feel that love. I'm actually excited to get out there. Anytime I get a chance to go play in a non-NBA city, I always get excited to play those games.
That was Carmelo Anthony talking about the preseason game that he had a chance of playing in. What a great treat it was for Montreal. And on this week's Four Downs, we're talking about the Toronto Raptors, giving you a season preview. As always, we invite you to join us on our social networks at facebook.com/RBTL Sports and on Twitter at RBTL. We also invite you to check out our website, RBTLsports.com, for previous episodes. Our first guest for this week's segment is somebody who believes that basketball will one day come to Montreal. And that man is Mark Griffin. Great to welcome you to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And yes, I firmly believed in this for a long time. And the game this week in Montreal is just further proof of that.
Well, we'll have a chance of talking about that and obviously seeing about what you're doing with the Hoops Lounge. We're really glad to have you on. So thanks for taking the time.
Thanks.
To his right is Anthony Cornelli, as always, dressed well. Great to have you back. We're looking forward to some of your opinions and feedback with regards to the Eastern Conference and where this team stacks up. And last but not least, Pierre Evans-Just, our go-to guy for basketball. Great to have you, and I'm looking forward to what you have to say.
Glad to be here.
All right, let's talk about NBA in Montreal. You've been a huge advocate of bringing a team back in Montreal. First of all, let's talk about last week's Canada series. What did you notice? Is there anything different from year one and year two, or the ones that you've been part of?
Well, it's a growing phenomenon. I mean, last year it was the Celtics and the Timberwolves, but I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this. The We the North movement it's Canadian-wide, and they played a game in Vancouver, game in Montreal. Seeing the Raptors wear the warm-up shirts, Le Nord, c'est nous, We the North, it's further proof that it's just growing their Canada's team. I talked to Masai Ujiri about this, one team, one country. It's just, there's just this kind of clicking in the different cities around the country, just saying, you know what, we're not just a hockey country, and Montreal's not just a hockey town. And I see it in the ball caps, I see it in the arena. People just love the game. And
you actually had a chance of living in Toronto for quite a bit, and it was quite exciting for you to be able to be at some games.
Like I said, like you said, I lived in Toronto for a year. When the Raptors were playing, the city was electric. I mean, Toronto is the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Blue Jays, the Argos, but you can't draw those types of stars in a city without the NBA. I mean, like week in, week out, you had the Lakers, you have the Knicks, you got Melo, you got Kobe in there. The city was spectacular. The arena was just electrifying. It's a cool sport, and the city is a growing fast city in Canada. You know, it's competing with New York as the New York of the North, and the arena is just on fire, man.
I mean, it's not all fairy tales too. I mean, you know, there's obviously those who will say that having a preseason game in Montreal is one thing, being able to sustain a team is another. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about being able to sustain it long term? It's not an easy task. Right?
It's not an easy task, but I think we have a niche for it. I think that we have the population to do it. If Vancouver could sustain a basketball team, and the reason why they moved, if I'm not mistaken, and not really because of their population, it was different factors that had them move to Memphis. But I think that we do have the population, we do have the basketball niche, the people behind it to sustain it.
Do you agree with that why Vancouver and not Montreal?
Well, I mean, I spoke to the GM of the Grizzlies about this, and his successor was the guy who moved the team, and he said flat out it was the currency. That was a major issue. I'm sure there were other issues behind the scenes, but that was a major issue. In terms of Montreal, I wrote an article called Why Montreal is an NBA City. You can Google it, find it. It's been up there for a year. People have been commenting on it. I think the huge pocket of people who love the game most in our city are 15 to 35.
Yeah, it's a multi-ethnic group too.
Yeah, I mean, very much multi-ethnic, and they can identify with the players on their court more so than hockey because it's more of a multicultural, multi-ethnicity you see in basketball in the NBA. And so the thing is, to sustain season ticket holders, that's going to be an issue because they're young. They don't have the deep pockets.
Of course.
but they're coming along. So it's growing that way.
Well, speaking of coming along, this team has made huge strides with regards to the Eastern Conference and being able to keep the nucleus intact. 7 other top scorers are now together. They're bringing them back. Masai Ujiri has done a great job. Let's start with you, Anthony, in terms of the expectations you have for the Toronto Raptors. It's been very rare that the word high and expectations have been in the same sentence, right? For the first time, there's a lot of pressure on the Toronto Raptors. What kind of expectations do you think they have?
Well, absolutely. I think it's their division to lose in the Eastern Conference in the Atlantic. So I believe with Lowry and DeRozan back, second year together, like you said, they kept the nucleus together. If Jonas can be the third leg to the tripod, I think that the Raptors could contend. Maybe not for the NBA title, but definitely make some noise in the Eastern Conference.
Pierre?
Well, with all the upheaval that's going on in the Eastern Conference right now, the Pacers not going to be as good. Cleveland, it's a new team, a new coach, LeBron going back. Chicago, we're not really sure what's going to go right now with Derrick Rose. If he stays injured, they're definitely going to be a contender. They're the only team, if I'm not mistaken, that is bringing back their entire nucleus.
Yeah, that's it.
They re-signed Kyle Lowry. They re-signed Patrick Patterson, spaces the floor.
But then those would
plus.
argue then when you say the word contender, what are you contending? Are you contending for second place in the East? Are you contending for third place in the East? Do you think that they have a deep enough team to be able to battle a team, for example, like the Chicago Bulls, who won 48 games last year, without Derrick Rose?
Well,
those are monster teams in the East.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the biggest issue here is injuries. People don't realize that the Raptors were one of the healthiest teams in the league last year. They didn't lose guys to games, and they're kind of building a Spurs system, San Antonio Spurs, where they're sustaining. They're bringing the key guys in. They're building a foundation, of kind of a family atmosphere that I talked to Kyle Lowry about.
Defensive oriented.
Yeah, it's more of a team effort than individual stars.
Chemistry's not an issue for these guys. It's staying healthy and just kind of adding new guys, and they've added a few new guys this year. So it's just.
But is it enough?
That's the thing.
I mean, is it enough to be able to go up against the likes of and even Washington?
That's going to be the challenge.
Yeah,
that's going to be the challenge if they can reach that next level. Obviously, Jonas is on Lowry. It's on DeRozan reaching the next level, and Valanciunas. It's a big if he reaches the same standard that he had in Spain, which he was probably the best big man in that tournament, not named Anthony Davis.
I saw the tournament firsthand. I was
trained
there.
with Akeem in the summertime, worked on his post move. So
I heard about that. He was trained with Akeem Olajuwon.
And you could tell that he takes it seriously. It's just a matter of reaching the next level.
But even if the big three, even if the Raptors' big three stay healthy and have a great year, can they compete with Rose being back from injuries?
Yeah.
If Joakim Noah is healthy, the Chicago Bulls added Paul Gasol. Can they compete with the Chicago Bulls, the Cleveland Cavaliers with the new big three,
that's
LeBron
ultimately
and
the
company?
question. And you bring up a great point. It's where do they stack up, right, in the East? Because ultimately, it's how far up in the East they're going to make it will be a deciding factor in terms of a great season or not. They'll have to play one of these teams in the second round.
And they want to finish at 3. They don't want to go.
Absolutely. They don't want to regress, right? They want to progress.
And they're getting a leg up on Washington because Bradley Beal's not starting the season.
Yeah.
So that's a plus for them. And they're bringing back the same team. It's just a matter of.
Derrick Rose has to be healthy. He hasn't been healthy in 2 years.
Yeah.
This is
I'm a Bulls fan, so I'm a Bulls fan. So
crucial.
don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Yeah. I think that there's also, one of the things that I've noticed about the team, and maybe you guys can weigh in on this, I think that it's a mental game too with the Raptors. You're going in with such a heavily favorite, the Cavaliers, and you've got the Bulls on the Eastern Conference. It's really a mental thing. Do you guys agree with that in the sense that the Raptors need to believe?
Well, that's the
right.
thing.
It's not just playing well and being deep, because you look at Lou Williams off the bench and what he can spark up, and I mean he's instant offense right off the bench. But is it really a mental thing? Do you agree with that, or is it literally just a numbers game and the Raptors just don't have the firepower to do it?
Well, that's a job of the coach. The coach, having the experience last year going to the playoffs, they lost basically because they had a bad matchup with Joe Johnson in the playoffs. Brooklyn's going through upheaval as well. Brook Lopez, we're not entirely sure if he's going to be healthy. So for Toronto, all their chips on the table to do well. It's just a matter of believing. DeRozan believing that he's an all-star. Kyle Lowry believing that he's one of the top point guards in the league. And he should have been an all-star as well.
Stay right there, gentlemen. I want to continue this conversation. But speaking of DeRozan, take a look and have a listen to what he said about the crowd in Montreal as they pumped him up to win the basketball game. Have a listen.
Oh yeah, for sure. We feed off that without a doubt, and that's the cool thing about having dedicated fans like that. We feed off it.
Defense, and that's not going to change. It's the same as always going to be. We got to defend and then get some easy shots off our offense, because I think we'll be able to score. We got some individual scores, but we got to be able to stop people and defend people night in and night out.
That was Coach Casey talking about the identity of the Raptors and the importance of defense. We continue on with our 4 Down segment as we break down the Toronto Raptors 4 different ways. We welcome back this man right here from the Hoops Lounge, Mark Griffin. Welcome back.
Thank you.
To my left is Pierre Evans-Just, our basketball insider. Great to have you back. Some great points you've been bringing up. Looking forward to continuing on. As well as this man right here, David Hurley, the opinionated David Hurley. Welcome back. Great
Glad
to
to
have
be
you
back.
All right, so we're talking about the Raptors, and we heard Casey talk about, Coach Casey talk a little bit about the identity and the need for defense. There's going to have to be some impact players on this team who are going to have to step up if they want to make it far in the Eastern Conference, especially in the playoffs, right? Absolutely. So let's start with you, Pierre. Who's your biggest impact player that needs to step up this year or you think could have a breakout year?
I'm looking at Valanciunas, and it's not a surprise with the skill set that he has.
Even more than Ross?
Even more than Ross. Even more than Ross because 7-foot-tall centers, 22 years old, they don't grow on trees in the Eastern Conference. Yeah. And if you take a look at what his competition is, only Brook Lopez and Roy Hibbert in the Eastern Conference. So he has to step to that next level. And for me, he can do it. He can do it. It's just a matter of him working on his game, being offensively accountable, defensively accountable as well. But he can get to that level.
The GMs actually stepped up and said that they voted Valanciunas as being one of the guys who was going to have the most likely to break out this year with their annual surveys in the league. And they put him as number 1. So he's definitely a big piece. You agree with that?
Yeah, the Cleveland Cavaliers messed up when they took Tristan Thompson ahead of him. They really missed the boat on that one.
That's a scary thought, by the way.
It really is.
Have GM in place now.
It is. But the thing is with Valanciunas is he's put on a little bit of size. And his size is really going to enable him down low to post up against guys. And really with that wingspan, instead of getting pushed in front, he's going to be pushing back. So it's really going to be good on his defensive, and that's where he's going to average. He went from 6 rebounds to 8 rebounds. I expect him this year to average around 11 rebounds again.
I'm surprised you guys say Valanciunas, though, when you talk about impact player. We know that, obviously we know he's an integral part of the Raptors, but Terrence Ross, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on this guy's back right now. He's got to step up. He was non-existent in the playoffs. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that Terrence Ross needs to make a bigger impact? Or is there somebody in your books that does or can make a bigger impact than those two?
I think Terrence is actually trade bait, to be honest, coming off the bench.
Think so?
Yeah, the 4 spot, I mean, I love Amir Johnson. He does so many little things well, but that's one position they need to shore up. I love Patrick Patterson off the bench, giving energy and kind of the front man role, but I think we may have CT Ross going and getting a 4.
On the market. But who you're looking at on the market that you could trade him for?
Well, it's funny because
he's really young. He has all the athleticism in the world. So I'm wondering who. If you were in Masai Ujiri's shoes right now, who would you think that you would trade him for?
Well, the irony is, and this is from my friend Dwight Walton, Chris Bosh would have been great as a stretch 4. Now
Chris Bosh?
It's not going to happen.
Back to Toronto.
That's wishful thinking. But
wishful thinking. Oh my God, who's out there right now? There's not much out there. See, stretch 4s are hard to find in this league, and Channing Frye, something like that would fit the role well if you could get someone like that. But I trust Masai Ujiri. He's one of the smartest men in basketball. He'll figure something out.
Well, speaking of Masai Ujiri, you talk about what they've done with We the North campaign. You talk about Jurassic Park, as they call it, outside the ACC. It's remarkable to see what he's been able to do with this team and been able to build from the coach down. What do you foresee from him moving forward? What do you think that he's capable of doing? Have we seen the most that we can get from Ujiri? Have we seen the biggest changes moving forward? Is this the nucleus and this is what he's going to roll with? I mean, he's brought them all back, right? So clearly he has confidence in them. How confident are you with regards to his moves?
For me, I mean, having read so much about him over the last few years, even when he was back in Denver. He was in Toronto before he was in Denver, by the way. This is the tip of the iceberg. I think he's one of the most intelligent men in all of basketball. It's interesting to see how charismatic he is as a person. I see I've seen people coming up to him to take photos, and you don't think of general managers that way. Yeah. He's just a personable, honest man, passionate about basketball. Grew up like Dikembe Mutombo with nothing in Africa, coming over, working for free for the longest time. He loves this organization. Kyle Ravelli said to my face basically that he stayed because in this organization, everyone at the top and everyone at the bottom are treated as equals, and that's the tone that Ujiri sets. It's a family atmosphere, and he's going to stay and grow.
But do you think with all that's all fine? But do you think that in terms of the tinker, if we take a look at the roster right now, do you think there's any tinkering that he needs to do to get to the next level?
There's plenty of tinkering that team needs to do, but I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to go through Chicago and Cleveland. Of course. The team's not going to give up all those potential money, the revenue that they can make by making the playoffs. They're not going to give up on a one-chance opportunity to beat a Cleveland. I think what they're going to keep doing is keep riding the ship, being steady, being a perennial playoff team, once they're a perennial playoff team, built kind of like San Antonio. San Antonio built slowly. Of course, they've had some great teams along the years, but their heart and soul of their team is Parker. You know, you're looking at guys like that, and that's exactly what they're doing with Kyle Lowry and DeRozan.
The onus is on Dwayne Casey as well.
Yeah, he's got a huge responsibility, but he looks like a no-nonsense guy.
There's a new contract.
Right?
He has a new contract now. So for him, it's the onus of making them believe, not only for themselves, but him believe in himself that they can get to the next level. And I'm wondering, you brought up the point in terms of Terrence Ross being a trade bait. I'm thinking that they should definitely get a third scoring option, somebody other than Kyle, other than DeRozan, because Valanciunas, defensively speaking, that's where I think his responsibility should be.
But Grievous has also stepped up quite a bit too.
Vasquez has been
He's a playmaker though, but
fantastic.
scoring-wise, somebody that you know for a fact, like he brings instant offense, and Lou Williams can be one of those pieces.
And watch
coming off the
out,
bench.
it's going to be long-term, but Bruno is a project. He's going to get there. He's got some special talent.
7'6" wingspan.
The wingspan he has on him.
Yeah.
He's a project. He's very raw, but he's got a lot to look forward to in the future. I mean, 2 years away from being 2 years away, it's not that far. I think he'll be playing next season.
That was a quote, but it looks like they made a steal.
What are one of the biggest obstacles that Ujiri has to face with this team if it doesn't go well quick? Every other team in the Eastern Conference seems like they've reinvented themselves. Start with you first. Is there any obstacles that you see on a short-term or even on a long-term basis that he needs to address?
Well, I mean, it's the mentality of Canada being a basketball country, something that and with Steve Nash retiring this week, there's been so much going on, but essentially retiring with the injury. It's the sense of the identity of Canada becoming a basketball country. That's something he has to work towards growing. So the Raptors have not, it's their 20th anniversary, have not really been on the radar outside of Vince Carter's slam dunks and the dunk contest for a long time in 2001 when they nearly beat the Sixers in the second round. They haven't been there since then, really. So it's the building up within the NBA empire as Toronto as a place to be. That's his biggest obstacle as being a GM here. Yeah.
Right before we let you go, I know you've been working quite a bit on the Hoops Lounge. Congratulations, by the way, on all your success. You guys just launched a brand new website, so maybe tell our viewers where we can catch you and catch some of the stuff that you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's hoopslounge.com. We just launched the beta version of our new site. We have a weekly show every Sunday, like you guys. Great basketball conversations, NBA, college, international basketball. It's myself, Phil Boileau, Moda Elb, and a series of writers, photographers, a bit of everything, articles, podcasts, contests, hoopslounge.com, everything basketball, and we put the Montreal and Canadian spin on it
and
too.
It's good to have people like that in Montreal.
Yeah,
well, we look forward to having you back, and obviously Phil as well. We extend an invitation out to him, so congratulations on all the success. Stay with us after the break. I face off against boxing legend Otis Grant. He's recognized as a boxing champion, as far as I'm concerned, a boxing legend. But it's what he does outside the ring that is truly inspiring. What a joy it is for me to face off against this man right here. Otis Grant, welcome to Reid Between the Lines, or face off. Well, you're breaking my hand right there with a handshake.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. You're on the top of my list of one of the guys I wanted to interview. With the success you've seen in boxing and the success you've seen outside the ring, it's remarkable to see what you've been able to accomplish. How long has it been since you fought Roy Jones? Can you believe it's been that long?
I fought Roy Jones in 1998, November. So it's been quite a while. I mean, that was my biggest fight to date. And like at the time when I fought Roy was like the Floyd Mayweather of today. He was pound for pound the best guy in the sport. And I had an opportunity to fight him, and they say opportunity knocks only so often in this business. So like I moved up 2 weight classes to take that fight because it was a fantastic opportunity, and a lot of people thought I was crazy for jumping up 2 weight classes to take that fight.
It's funny you talk about jumping up 2 weight classes because a lot of guys wouldn't do that in today's era with regards to boxing. What are your opinions in terms of the state of boxing now? What is the one thing that either A, you really like about boxing, or B, drives you absolutely crazy when you look at the state of boxing?
I think right now, in some of the weight classes, you don't see the best fight the best guys. A lot of the promoters, a lot of the managers in the business now, they're protecting their fighter, and trying to put them in with fights that they know will win. But back in the day, the best fought the best guys. When Thomas Hearns fought Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler and Robert Duran and all those guys fought each other.
When you were a contender, you were a contender.
Yeah, you fought the best, and the best comes on the watch. Now today, I think the way the business of boxing has changed, and even also the fighters, like with social network and all this kind of stuff. These guys promote themselves in let you think that they're the greatest guy that ever put on a pair of gloves, but
Sure.
they haven't really been. It hasn't been proven.
Right.
They're not taking the fights that they need to take to back up the statements that they're putting out there to the rest of the world.
You brought up a great point in terms of a lot of the guys dodging each other. It almost feels like when you become the champ in today's era, they do everything they can to avoid the big fight because they want that big paycheck.
That's right.
Do you still believe that there are guys who are just fearless in the ring and that will take on those fights? And if so, can you name me one?
You know, I think there are like Floyd Mayweather has been beaten. He'll fight anybody, but I think the biggest fight that the world's been waiting on is the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight,
Sure.
and that fight hasn't happened. And that fight should have happened, but like right now, Pacquiao's gonna fight Algerian. The winner might fight Floyd, but Floyd's at the end. I think he has 3 fights to go, but that fight should have happened years ago. And I think
At their peaks.
At their peaks, yeah.
Right.
So they're cheating the fans. That fight should have happened when they were both at the peak of their career and they're at the best of the best. But now, like, I think Floyd has 2 or 3 fights left on his contract, and I think.
Who do you have in that fight, by the way?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Mayweather in the fight. Like, you know, when a guy hasn't been beaten, it's hard. It's hard to
go against the
him.
record, right?
100%. And I think
Is he the best pound-for-pound fighter you've ever seen or ever gone up against? I mean, how do you stack him up against Roy Jones or anybody else you fought?
You know what? Like, I think his opposition was weaker than some of the guys before him, you know? Like, my favorite fighter of all time, Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Yeah.
Now, Hagler
Classic.
fought everybody. You know, he fought Ray Leonard, he fought Robert Duran, he fought Tommy Hearns, he fought them all. Like, that's when you prove your worth in the ring. You fight the best of the best, and then you come out on top. This era right now, Floyd doesn't have those type of challengers, guys
Sure.
that were considered his equal. And the one guy that was, for one reason or the other, like, you know, drug testing, not drug testing, they never made the fight happen.
Sure.
When it should have.
There's a lot of what you do is outside the ring. I was mentioning it before. And congratulations on all your success and how much you give back to Montreal. It's phenomenal. It's remarkable. But it all starts at Grant Brothers Gym and
Yeah.
some of the galas that you have and some of the fundraisers you organize. Can you talk a little bit about some of the galas that you do, the amateur championships?
Right now, you know, we have the gym. We used to promote amateur events in-house with community kids that we just take
Right.
from the community, and they come in, they start learning boxing. We started.
They get to
doing
spar with you as well? It's pretty cool. It's pretty neat.
Well, I don't spar that much anymore, but like I've worked with a lot of kids over the years. But right now, the thing that we're doing pro-am shows. Cause we train professional fighters. It was a key part of our business at one point.
Sure.
But now we're starting to do our own shows where we highlight our pros, but we open with our amateurs. So all guys from Grant Brothers, which kind of like keeping everything in-house. Our amateurs open the shows, the professional close the shows, and our next event is November 7th at the Chateau Vaudreuil, and you know, they're going very well. It's our 4th event within 1 year, and you know, it's an opportunity to, you know, like how hockey has a farm team.
Sure.
Like we have our amateur program, like as our farm team, we turn these kids pro. The 3 guys from my gym that are fighting the 3 professional fights were my former 3 my amateur boxers. So
Well, how is the state of local boxing and Quebec boxing? How does it look? I mean, we hear about Jean Pascal, we hear about Adonis, we hear about Lemieux, but on the grassroots levels, how's it looking?
Grassroots level is good. I think countrywide, I think Montreal, Quebec, this province right here, and this city is probably the best it's been in boxing over the years, because you know, you gotta look at, let's say you just mentioned Pascal, there's Boutte, there's Stevenson. Those are 3 guys that were 3 world champions at the same time in one city. That hasn't happened here before. And even that fight too, the Boutte, Pascal, and the Pascal Stevenson, those fights should have happened a while ago. I think it was a successful fight when Pascal fought Boutte, but had that fight happened when they were both champions of the world, it would have been a much bigger fight. It would have been a fight that put Montreal on the map worldwide as a place. And one of the things that we have in Montreal that you don't see outside in the United States or other parts of the world, like you put 2 local guys in the ring, or they'll draw 15, 20,000 people.
Yeah.
You don't see that at a Floyd Mayweather fight. You don't see that at like a Pacquiao fight. They might get 10,000, 12,000. Those guys are the biggest name in the sport. But Montreal is unique in that the fans come out and they support their local guys.
Well, speaking of support, I also had a chance of seeing some footage of you going into schools and giving back. Can you just real quickly talk about the impact that boxing has on the troubled youth and how you've used that as a tool?
You know, I've done a lot of work in the school. I worked for the school board for many years for Lester B, and I was working in English Montreal before that. And you know, being in the gym, when a young person comes in, is having some difficulty, and like he might be, you know, rough kid at school, he might be getting in fights and not paying attention, or having issues with his parents. You know, we have parents that bring my brother and I, kids into the gym, say, I can't deal with them, you guys. So we take kids in there. Boxing's a very humbling sport. So a lot of times you'll have a kid that comes in that thinks he knows how to fight and all that, and you'll put him in with a little kid that's been around the gym, but on the street, the bigger kid probably,
of course,
smack him
but
around.
not in the ring,
but
right?
in the ring,
yeah.
Look, keep his hands up, block punches, move away, and like you put a kid that thinks he's a tough guy in with a little guy, and I'm gonna kill this guy. The bell rings, you can't lay a glove on him, and the kid's touching him up, and those kids that turn around quickly, they're like, wow. It's not supposed to happen, but it's happening. So, we use boxing to benefit and to try to help young people in trouble, out of trouble, and just to keep them focused into, I'm a big advocate of kids getting involved in sports or physical activity because, it's a great way to release that excess energy. And if you don't have some of the talent to channel that energy, you could always end up in trouble or end up with the wrong kids or end up doing the wrong thing. So our doors are always open to kids that are, good kids from the community, but also kids that are having a little rough go at home with their family or whatever.
Well, there's no doubt that you do great work, and it's a great pleasure to have you on our Face Off segment. Before I let you go, I'm going to have a little bit of fun with you. We're going to do a little rapid fire segment. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you let me know the first thing that comes to mind, all right?
All right.
So first things first, have you ever played Punch-Out on the old school Nintendo?
I have.
Did you ever beat Mike Tyson?
I never did.
Who is your number 1 fighter you'd love to play or fight against in your career that you would have really liked that you never got a chance to fighting?
I was supposed to fight Bernard Hopkins twice, and the fight fell through, so I think Bernard Hopkins would be a good guy to go.
Greatest of all time, regardless of weight class?
I'd still say Muhammad Ali because of impact on the sport inside the ring and outside the ring.
20 years ago, who wins the fight, you or your brother?
My brother, I'm bigger than my brother, but he was more skilled than I was.
At 20 years, fast forward today, who takes the fight now?
I think I might be in a little better shape and a lot heavier than he is right now.
There it is. Maybe we'll have him on to talk about that. Otis, great to have you on. Thanks again. Right. We invite you to connect with Otis Grant and with us on our Facebook.com page at facebook.com/RBTL Sports, as well as on Twitter at RBTL Sports. It's already done. Well, on behalf of the entire team, we want to thank you for being here. And as always, we'll see you next week.
Adam Reid's wardrobe is provided by Carve Clothing, available at carve.ca. Salon services courtesy of Glam Atelier, La Maison de Beauté. Catering services provided by Season Dreams by J. Anthony.